Welcome to the running journey. Welcome to the running journey.
Welcome to the running journey.
Welcome
to the running journey. Running journey, yeah. Welcome to The Running Journey, a transformative podcast telling the story of two brothers faced with a very tough time in their lives that decided to do something about it, get healthy, get fit, and start jogging. The Running Journey will take you through half marathons, Ironmans, ultramarathons, and their attempt at qualifying for the Boston Marathon.
Don't forget 5Ks. Sorry.
We're certainly not going to forget 5Ks, Charlie. This is The Running Journey. Listen to us while you run.
That's a great idea.
Okay, I think we have our intro. Hey guys, welcome. This video podcast will be a review of the jogging situation around Legoland, Florida, in Winter Haven, Florida, in Polk County. The idea is that I'm going to be doing a review of the best places to jog, and I'm also going to be telling you about my 6 half marathons in 6 days while I was on vacation. So the reason I'm doing this is because when I went out to Legoland in Florida with my family, I realized there was no real jogging paths. There's no real, an infrastructure in place. There's no reviews or podcasts. Nobody's really talked about how and where to jog. And I discovered a lot in my week when I was there. And I thought I would share this with you because some of you are going to Legoland. Others just want to hear about the story of my 6 half marathons in 6 days. And I thought it would make sense for us to record that. So here we go. I'm going to get started right away. I'm going to share my screen here. This is, we are now in Polk County, as you see here. Polk County is between Tampa and Orlando. It's just east of Lakeland in a city, I'll say, called Winter Haven. Now, Winter Haven is a little bit northwest of Legoland. Legoland is right here. Legoland is on the coast of Lake Eloise, which, by the way, is a gorgeous lake. Fantastic setup. This Legoland here is right off Cypress Gardens Boulevard. If I go to the layers here, a huge parking lot here. I stayed at Legoland Resort right here with my kids. There's Legoland Pirate Hotel, which is right here. And this is the entrance to the theme park right here. So the key and the reason I want to show you this is you're going to get to Legoland. You're not going to know where to jog. So take this information and gather it and then do the best you can with your jogging. I did half marathons every day. So that was 13.1 miles, 21.1 kilometers every single day while I was on vacation. And if you want to do more or less, take this information and you could use it for your jogs. So first off, the entrance to your hotel, this is all joggable here. This little path right in here. You can jog all the way out here. And every morning when you do your jog or afternoon, you're going to want to run through this parking lot to this loop here. And there's a beautiful sidewalk that you could exit here. And this is a sidewalk across here. And there's a short period here where there's no sidewalk. You can go around this way, but I would just jog this portion right here. Once you get to Cypress Gardens, this is 0.6 of a kilometer. What would that be? Just less than half a mile, about between a third and half a mile. And this to the corner here is 0.6 kilometers. Once you get to Cypress Gardens Boulevard, you're kind of laughing because it's beautiful sidewalks all the way. Now, there are no jogging paths that I was able to find in and around Legoland. By the way, beautiful view of Legoland and the amusement park. So Legoland is all this. This is Cypress Gardens, and then at the end you have a water park all the way out here. So I'm going to show you first off real quick my jog, the jogs that I did, and I ended up doing 6 of them. So this is the first one here. Starting at Legoland, I went all the way over here. I went around Lake Summit. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was exploring on the first day. So I went up, I went down here around Lake Summit. This area here is a residential area. It is gorgeous. All of this area around Lake Summit. Now, you're not really going to be on any sidewalks here, but you're in residential area. So you would run out on Cypress Gardens, hit this residential area around Lake Summit, around Lake Ina, which is right here, all the way across to Lake Lou. In this stretch here, there are some mansions on the beach right here. These are really long lots. And then I would just follow around Lake Lulu. And then these just don't necessarily go all the way through. So this first jog that I was doing, and I'll give you my feedback on what I would do if I were you guys, but I basically didn't know. So I just said, I'm going to follow this lake. I'm going to I'm going to hover around Lake Lulu. I'm a big fan of lakes. I like lakes. I like jogging around lakes. I think the water, the perception, the depth. And I think there's some studies that have been done on this. They call it blue therapy. It really makes you feel good. It makes you feel, it opens up your mind. It releases serotonin, whatever it does, it makes you feel good inside. So I like jogging around lakes. I went all the way to the end of Cypress Gardens, and then I just turned around, came back, checked out this little stretch here, and then basically made my way back. This loop here is a fun little loop. It's off Overlook Point, I believe, or Overlook Drive. Overlook Drive is 2.2 kilometers from the hotel. So if we go back here, and I'll go to the layers map here. So basically, I got out here. I looked both ways. I said, do I want to go right or do I want to go left? I went left. Cypress Gardens, Lake Summit, around here, all the way here. This is gorgeous residential areas. This stretch here, as you can see, huge mansions, big, long lots. And then I just went all the way and I followed over here. Also very nice residential area. Some of these are gated communities, but you can get around. And the main lane, the main lanes like 8th Terrace Southeast. This was a nice little spot here. Jogged all the way here. Now these don't connect, so I had to go back to Cypress Gardens, and I went down here across. I did come here. There's a baseball diamond here. I did come all the way down here and then turn around and went back. This is kind of the end of Cypress Gardens right here. And I just went back. And that was my first jog on that first day. So I ended up going a little bit here around Overlook Drive and this little Lake Florence Drive, which was fun. This is beautiful right here. It's a little bit hilly. And that was my first half marathon on my first day. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good kind of first impression of where I was going. So this is jog one. I'll go to jog two here. Day two, I woke up. I said, okay, I really like this Lake Eloise, and I'd like to jog around it if possible. So on the first day, remember, I came in here and I jogged in this residential area. Day two, I said, why don't I go right? Why don't I go right outside of Legoland and go see what's down there? So I went in this area here. As you can see, there's a lot of confusion happening here because I was trying to find a way to connect to this residential area so I could run around here. What I've noticed in and around Winter Haven and in and around Cypress Gardens is that the residential areas have very limited connectivity one to another. It's almost like they're secluded. So you think, oh, I should be able to just hop on and jog from here to there, but you can't. There'll be 6-foot fences, there'll be gates, and they're not going to allow you to jog in this area. So you really need to check out your map the night before and just see, especially if you're jogging in residential areas. So this was probably I'd say my toughest jog and most awkward jog because there's no sidewalks for a significant portion of this. So if I go back to the Google map here, you'll see that let's go to this thing. You'll see that I'm just going to pause a sec here. Okay, if I go back to this map here, So I'm continuing with the recording. So if I go back to this map right here, you'll see that the main drag in Winter Haven is this Cypress Gardens Boulevard. It's high traffic, it's 4-lane each side, there's intersections, but the neat thing is there's huge sidewalks on both sides of Cypress Gardens, and it's phenomenal to jog. The rest of this map is unfortunately not phenomenal to jog. So when I came out here on my second day, again, I started here, Legoland Way, make your way to Cypress Gardens. This is 0.6 of a kilometer. And I went this way. I went right, or I went east. When I got to this intersection here, I thought it'd be pretty simple to just jog and connect myself to the residential area. But it wasn't the case. I wasn't able to connect to Winterset Road. These do not connect. Now, the map looks like it connects, but it doesn't. So I ran here and I went to Old Helena Road. This was not pleasant. I would avoid it if I were you guys. There's no sidewalk on Old Helena Road here. No sidewalk. No sidewalk all the way to here. And even this little Eloise Loop Road, there's no sidewalk for portions of it. Now the lake is beautiful, and this little jog was beautiful, but there's no sidewalk. And eventually, I got to Rifle Range Road here, and I wanted to cut across and make my way back Eloise Loop Drive. I came here and there's no sidewalk here. This is new construction, new development area. And you're basically jogging on a road. You're hoping that nobody's going to hit you. So it wasn't a great run. And I would advise against this run here, over here, or across and up north to West. This stretch here, West Lake Eloise Drive, was really unpleasant between these two lakes. Very, very much unpleasant, because this is called Point Heron. Point Heron is effectively, it's an interlake area between two lakes, and it's a swampy area, and there's no sidewalk. So you are running literally on the side of the road, and you're hoping that cars don't hit you. I went out early in the morning. It was extremely foggy, and I was really worried for my safety in here. So I would avoid this southern area if you really want to jog out here. Make sure it's a nice clear day. Um, very unforgiving sidewalks is what I would say, and lack of sidewalks. There were no sidewalks here at all. So I ended up just continuing on with. I did Point Heron. I had liked this residential area, so I went up here again, did the same recovery, same way back. This little Lake Ina around this area was nice. I hadn't jogged this part, so I came and I jogged this part, and then I went back home. So that was a half marathon as well, and it was something that I enjoyed, but it wasn't the greatest because of the lack of sidewalks. This one was also not that pleasant. This is jog 3 of my 6 half marathons in 6 days. So I said, I want to go way up north. So I wanted to go. There's some lakes up here, and I said, it'd be nice to go down Overlook Drive all the way to the end, Dundee Road, and then kind of just connect all the way up here. So I mapped it out the night before. I knew it was about a half marathon, but the problem was, again, lack of sidewalks. So if I go back to this map here, this one right here, the overlook point is okay, right? So your Overlook Drive, I should say. So I started out Cypress Gardens, Overlook Drive. Once you get to this corner around here, again, no sidewalks. Now, this is a wider road, so it's not that bad in that you can run on the shoulder, but Overlook Drive all the way to Dundee, to Carl Floyd Road here, I really disliked jogging on Carl Floyd Road right here. It was not pleasant, and I would avoid it if I were you. Dundee Road here is a bit of a stretch with sidewalks, so you're okay here. There's businesses here. It's I mean, it's almost an industrial feel. There's parts services, there's janitorial stores, it's a very industrial feel here, and it's a wide road with big sidewalks. So I went all the way. I wanted to run around. Um, I wanted to run to and around Lake Buckeye, Lake Idle, and Lake Maud. Again, I focused most of my jogging around Lake. So I did the Buckeye Loop here. Did not enjoy Buckeye Loop. Would caution you against no sidewalks whatsoever for a portion of it. And then up around here on Martin Luther King Boulevard, this also, there were portions that had sidewalk. Once you get into kind of, I believe this area is called I saw a lot of signs of like Jewett, Jewett. So I think that's the name of the area. I could be wrong, but there was a community here. I believe it was a lower income community. That'd be my guess. Um, and it certainly looked more impoverished than some of the other places that I had gone. Saw some homeless people around here. I was never worried about my safety, but I would imagine if you are cautious about if you're a young woman or something, I don't know. I don't know if I would necessarily jog here. I'm fearless when I jog, so but I would just maybe avoid some of these areas. So I did the Buckeye Loop. I saw Lake Buckeye. You don't really get a view of Lake Buckeye. I almost got no view of Lake Fanny. Um, I didn't really see Lake Idle. This is very swampy, Lake Maud. And then I kept going on Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I just effectively um, came back. So I did the square here, and I came back on First Street, went all the way down, and back to Cypress Gardens, and then back home to Legoland. So that was my third day. And again, if I look at this First Street here was a good spot to jog around between Lake Martha and there's another lake here. It's called Lake Howard, I believe. Yeah, Lake Howard. Or sorry, this one here, Lake Silver. Lake Howard is the water skiing lake. So there's a lot of water skiing that is set up here. I believe they have shows out here. There's a water ski setup. You'll see in Jog 4 that I actually went around Lake Howard. So Lake 4, Jog 4, I wanted to go around Lake Elbert. I had seen some photos online that looked nice, and I wanted to do Lake Martha. So Lake 4, the Jog 4, the idea was Lake Elbert and Lake Martha. This was probably my absolute favorite jog, and Lake Elbert is definitely my favorite lake of all the lakes. Again, you'll notice I head out from Legoland. I went north and then eventually west. The idea is that Cypress Gardens is a beautiful road to jog. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of life. There's a lot of cars, a lot of businesses. I enjoy that. Keeps me motivated, sane, and sharp when you're doing 2-hour jogs. These are all roughly 2-hour pace marathons, so I wasn't pushing myself. I've done a sub 3-hour marathon, and I've done an hour 24 half for my best time ever for a half. This wasn't that. This was very light pace, very slow jog that I was just taking it all in. We're winterized out here, obviously in Winnipeg, and it's very, very cold. So this was an opportunity to be outside, to be warm. Cypress Gardens, all the way till the turn where I was heading up north to Lake Albert and Lake Albert and Lake Martha. So I came up on 6th Street right up here, 6th Street. Now this is also a residential area. I'd call this likely something like middle class, I would say. Jogged around this Winter Haven High School a few times. I like this area. It was nice. There's a lot of sidewalks, but even the roads that don't have sidewalks, very little traffic. So you could run in here. You could run a ton if you wanted to. Lake Elbert itself. So I went all the way up to Central here, East Central, and I did Lake Elbert Drive. So I went around this lake here. This is probably the most beautiful part that I jogged, and it's definitely my favorite part. It's gorgeous all the way here. There's sidewalks here. Now there aren't sidewalks for a good portion of this, but it's light traffic. So I didn't care because it's wide curves and there's enough area that you could jog if there's a car coming, depending on what time you're jogging. Fairly large paved shoulders, and you could, if there's a car coming, you're not sure, you could just jump into the grass if you wanted to. But I really thought this was beautiful because there's a lot of nice houses in this area, and there's a lot of there'd be docks, so like a whole bunch of docks on these properties, and then just the view. It's really, really nice. I enjoyed Lake Albert so much that I did it again. So if I go back to Jog 4, so I did Lake Albert, then I went up and I did Lake Martha between Lake Silver, and I came all the way back down. So that was, so I did Lake Albert, came up here, went up 6th Street, went around Lake Martha Drive. I actually enjoyed Lake Martha Drive, not as nice as Lake Albert. And then I basically just came down on First Street. First Street is another kind of busy hub, not as busy as the 17 here, which is kind of an old highway that runs through, but it was busy. And the neat thing about a lot of businesses, a lot of activity, very nice sidewalks to run on. Again, no real jogging trails, but I enjoyed running this piece here all the way down First Street. I enjoyed right back to Cypress Creek, and then you know what happens next. I jogged Cypress Creek all the way back to my hotel at Legoland. So this was probably my favorite jog, I would say. I really enjoyed Lake Albert. This was so beautiful. Lake Martha is beautiful as well. And so much so that I decided to do it again. If I look at my fifth day here, jog five, I did Lake Albert again, but I did a little differently. I wanted to see Lake Otis a little bit. I jogged in the residential area. I did Lake Albert, and then I came down a different street and did some of the residential areas in here that I hadn't done yet. Now there's some repeat in here, but I enjoyed this. And at the end, you will see here that I was a little short on my jog, so I ended up using the parking lot of Legoland to add. I was short about 1 kilometer, I think, to reach my half marathon. So I just added, or maybe it was 600, 700 meters. I just went out in the parking lot, and when I finished a little longer just to get some mileage, which you can do because that Legoland parking lot is monstrous. So again, here, my goal was to see slightly different area, residential area. I ended up going again by the high school, which is a nice little spot to run. I did this residential area, nice little spot to run. And then around Lake Albert, I loved it so much. This time I took a little bit of a different path. I hugged the shore of Lake Otis. I wanted to see what Lake Otis looked like. Hugged the shore of Lake Otis, around Lake Albert, right back. And I came down, I believe on 2nd or 3rd Street, maybe even it was 5th Street. And then I came down in front of the school all the way down, and I kept going, and I went back into this residential area south of Lake Roy, north of Lake Lulu. This area here, I mentioned before, this is probably my favorite residential area because there's some really nice houses here. I went up a street here that I hadn't ran on. You can run in here as much as you want. You can, in fact, do just a half marathon just in here, just jog in here, there, back, tons of different streets. This is accessible. People are friendly. I met a lot of people, smiling, wave, good morning, saying hi. Felt very, very safe. This is definitely a good area to jog. So this was jog 5, and I liked this area. It was fun to me. This one and jog 4 were probably my favorite. Again, Lake Albert, beautiful. Lake Otis, just beautiful too. I didn't jog Lake Martha this time, but another one that I do want to tell you guys about is the surrounding around Lake Ina. So this Lake Ina is a very small lake. It's on Cypress Gardens. So if I go back, you start here at Legoland, you exit Cypress Gardens, you're going to pass the Starbucks. By the way, the Starbucks is 1 kilometer on the nose from your hotel. If you want to get a coffee, 1 kilometer. And then Lake Summit, you could jog Lake Summit around it, but you actually you jog directly around Lake Ina. And I'd suggest you do it. If you're not sure, take the left on East Lake Ina Drive and just get back to Cypress Gardens. This is a nice, beautiful little lake here. And it's one of the rare lakes that you can actually jog all the way around. You can't do it at Lake Summit. You can't do it at Lake Roy. You can't do it on all these lakes. But Lake Albert, you can do it. Lake Ina, you could do. Lake Ina is a very short little detour just to run around that lake, and I think it's beautiful. When you get into Lake Roy, you can't really you'll notice most of these streets, they're dead ends. They're not. Most of the community is not set up to connect everywhere, and I'm thinking that's by choice, but I'm not sure. Lake Lulu, you can't really jog around it. Lake Ship, you can't really jog around it. You can drive around Lake Howard, which I did on I believe it was jog 6. So let's get to jog 6 now. Yeah, let's get to jog 6, where I jogged around Lake Howard. My goal here was I wanted to see what Lake Howard was. I had read about it being a water ski spot. Lake Howard is beautiful. Lake Howard reminds me a lot of Lake Albert. It's a bit of a ways to get there though, because just this jog ended up being more than a half marathon. So it ended up being 21 and a half kilometers or something like that. So just basically to get there, around and back, was a full half marathon. So you're seeing nothing else, and you're doing a lot of Cypress Gardens running, which is the sidewalk. So 6 jog here. Again, I went out, jogged. My goal was to jog around Lake Howard, this beautiful lake right here, which is a water ski show area. And I said, all right, I'm going to jog around it. So I left Legoland, went Cypress Gardens. Cypress Gardens to the corner here, I believe is about, there's a Chick-fil-A and there's a little park here. I believe this is about 7 kilometers, 6.5 kilometers, so like 4.5 miles. So it's a bit of a stretch. Just there and back gives you, a quarter of your half marathon, or a quarter of your marathon, or half of your half. From here, I decided to run north on the 17. Eventually, I angled my jog in here. I took 3rd Street, and then I cut across to Lake Howard right here on one of these streets. I believe it was Bates. And I went to the lake, and I liked this. This was really neat because there were sidewalks here for most of the area. Most of the lake had sidewalks. The back side of it did not have sidewalks. No, there were portions in here that were not pleasant. I'll say this last third of the lake. So the front half of the lake here that I jogged was very pleasant. Lots of ducks and scenery, and cars are being polite. You do have either a sidewalk or a shoulder, but this last stretch here was there was no sidewalk, and it was tight, and it wasn't super great. It was very foggy that morning, so I ended up finishing it. I debated going off and going into the residential streets here just to avoid it because I was a little concerned, but I ended up finishing my circumferential jog around Lake Howard, and I came down here through one of these streets. This one right here, I believe 15th. There's a railroad track here. I wanted to see what this lake looked like, Lake Ship. So I jogged a little bit of Lake Ship, crossed the tracks here. This is a big hill right here. And then there's a canal here. Across that, there's a bridge. No cemetery here at all. No sidewalks here at all. Made my way back to I believe it was Avenue O, and then I just went across on Avenue O and went all the way across, and then connected this little piece right here, Interlochen Boulevard, around between these two lakes, between Lake Otis and Lake. This is gorgeous right here. These are very nice houses. There's a little cul-de-sac here. So this Locken Drive, Interlochen, I jogged this. Now, this tells you that you should be able to get back to Cypress Gardens, but unfortunately there's a gate here and you actually can't get back here. I had to jump the fence to get over and across. Otherwise you're going all the way, like you're lost because there's no connection here, right? You could go, you can't even connect here. So you would have to turn around and go back. So I jumped the fence here, but just know that if you're going down Locken, you're either going to jump the fence or you're going to have to wait for a car to open this gate here. This is a residential area, but beautiful to jog in. Now, some of the places I wish I would have jogged, I would have liked to jog around Lake Ring. I didn't jog it. I would have, even this Lake Elizabeth, these would have been nice to do kind of up in here. I kind of ran out of days. And the other place that I would have liked to jog is west. Now, the problem with going west here, east down Cypress Gardens Boulevard, is past this point here, past Old Helena Road. There's about 2 miles here with no sidewalk, and this is a major highway here. So you have cars going 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and there's no sidewalk, so you're just on the shoulder. And it's one thing if you're on a sidewalk of an area where it's like 30 miles an hour, but this is really fast. So I would have done it had I had one more day. My next day would have been down Cypress Gardens, and then I would have jogged into these residential areas because they are beautiful. Lake Ruby looks really nice. Winterset, Lake Bass. I would have jogged into here and just kind of jogged around and into here and then back. But there's that mile and a half of no sidewalk. Just be aware of that. You could also go up here, and there is up until Carlton Arms, there's a sidewalk here on one of the two ends. So the entire portion between Legoland and Carlton Arms, this is all new developments in here. You have sidewalk for most of the way here, except for about one of the miles. So just keep that in mind if you're going down this way. So again, if I were to zoom out and tell you guys, so Legoland is right here, um, right here. All right. So you start on Legoland Way. You make your way out to the loop here. You're going to pass by Peppa Pig theme park. You're going to make your way to Cypress Gardens. My favorite areas to jog were the south residential areas, south of Cypress Gardens, north of Lake Loop. I really enjoyed that. And then my favorite lakes to jog around by far, Lake Albert. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And then the east side of Lake Howard. I wouldn't jog this backside if I were you guys. And then close second would be Lake Martha and Lake Silver, where you can actually jog around or jog a big portion around. Lake Otis, also a nice part here that you can connect into. So that's what I did on my 6 days in, I guess, Central Florida and Polk County, Winter Haven, Legoland. That's a review for you guys of where to jog. If you guys have thoughts, comments, concerns, I'd love put them in the box below. I enjoyed my time jogging here, and it's what I like to do when I go on holidays. I like to get up before the kids are up, and I like to get, I was doing half marathons on this day, but whether it's an hour jog or half an hour or a hike, some sort of physical activity. And I figured I would give you the information for all of you that want to jog around Legoland. Now you know where to go, you know what to avoid, and hopefully you enjoy it as much as I did, because I really, really enjoyed jogging around this area. Gorgeous area. And I wish you the best on your trip to Legoland, your trip to Winter Haven. And by all means, please subscribe. My brother and I have a podcast, The Running Journey. It talks about our story from obesity and addiction to health, and how I ran a sub 3 hour marathon, ran an Ironman, and turned my life around. So if you want to join that podcast, click on the podcast, click subscribe. We'd love to have you as fans. All right, guys, thanks for taking the time. See you in the next video.